Hi everyone, my name is Alastair Strachan. I work at the RIPE NCC as one of the Community Development Officers. For those who don't know, the RIPE NCC is the regional internet registry for Europe, Middle East and Central Asia. I always like to say that we are more than just a registry. We do a whole host of other things for the community. We have the RIPE Atlas tool that I'm going to be talking about a little today. We have a lot of different education, the RIPE Academy. We have a huge amount of historical data, which researchers use to publish things. So there's a whole host of things that we do as the NCC. Now, one of these is RIPE Labs. RIPE Labs is our online blog. It's where both ourselves and people from the community can post interesting research they've been doing. We publish overviews of certain policy discussions like ICP2. There's a whole host of things that are published on Labs. And today we're going to be looking at the subsea cable damage that happened in the Baltic Sea November last year, November, December. We published a few articles about this that gained a lot of traction, which is why this presentation has been created. Now, I will say with an asterisk here, if you like this, I will take credit. If you don't, I will blame Emil, because he is the one who actually did all the research and did all the information that we're looking at today. So Emil's one of our data scientists, and there's a whole host of cool insights into things that are happening on the internet using RIPE Atlas, RIS, RPKI data, a whole host of things. So with this talk, we're looking specifically at, I've mentioned 3 cables on here, but it's actually 2 cables we're going to be looking at. So just a brief timeline on this. November last year, so 17th of November, we saw an outage on the BCS East-West cable. On the 18th, the C-LION1 cable outage. We saw them restored in November as well. It was actually quite a quick restoration this time. There were ships already in the area. So we saw on the 27th, the BCS East-West was restored. C-LION1 was restored on the 28th. There was another outage on the 25th with the C-Line. That was restored again quickly. And then in January, there was the LVRTC cable. I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm really going to be focusing on the top 2. Now, whenever there is cable damage, the media seems to jump up and go wild on. It was hybrid warfare, it's the next attack. We as the RIPE NCC are a neutral source of data, so we will always report this as cable damage. As soon as you mention cut, it implies intent. Now, in this instance, there was, as I say, a whole host of news coverage and news stories. It was actually found that this was accidental damage. So in this slide, you can see from one of the marine traffic apps, you can see the ship's route, and actually, as it went over these cables, we saw 3 of them report outages. Now, the ship itself was suspected by the Finnish authorities of dragging anchor. Wasn't sure if it was intentional or not. But it was exactly that had happened. It was an accidental ship dragging its anchor and cut basically through these cables. So what we wanted to do as the NCC is have a look at what this meant to the internet itself. So using RIPE Atlas, so I'm guessing there's some people in the room who have heard of Atlas or maybe hosting a probe or an anchor. RIPE Atlas is our huge measurement network. So it's a global network of little probes that are constantly running measurements. So we have over 13,000 probes installed worldwide, 800 anchors, or just over 800 anchors. I'll touch in the anchors. The anchors were what really we used to get this data. So anchors are basically supersized probes. And on those, we're running over 35,000 measurements daily. So when I say we have a lot of data, there is a lot of data that we have from this. Now, I mentioned the anchors. The anchors are these supersized probes that are running ping, traceroute, DNS, HTTPS measurements. Now, what's really cool about the anchors is not only are they running all these measurements, user-defined or built-in measurements, the anchor also performs ongoing ping measurements every 4 minutes to all other anchors. So with this, we get this huge mesh of measurements that let us observe latency changes and packet loss between these anchors. And that's what we use. This big mesh really helped us spot the impact of this cable C damage. So first up, we're going to look focusing Sweden, Lithuania, Finland, and Germany. This is both the BCS East-West and also the C-LION. So BCS East-West is between Sweden and Lithuania. C-LION1 is Germany and Finland. So from this, you can see our list of anchors. Now, we have 100 anchors in Germany, 15 in Sweden, 12 in Finland, 5 in Lithuania. I will do a marketing pitch shortly about Atlas and how you should all be hosting probes and anchors. But so taking this anchor mesh, we were able to have a look at the latency effects. So on this heat map, 12 hours before and after the event is shown here. Now, what we saw with the BCS East-West, there was a noticeable increase around 10 to 20 milliseconds, 10 to 20 milliseconds around 8 a.m. on the 17th of November. Now, we've adjusted the baseline latency so we can clearly see the impact. On this heat map, each tick along the y-axis represents a path between a pair of anchors. So in this case, as I say, an anchor in Sweden and one in Lithuania. You can then see how the latency changed over time around the reported time of the break. So around 8 a.m. on the 17th, we see the gray is kind of base latency, and the orange indicates a higher increase in latency. So we see this latency kind of jump, slowly getting more and more once the cable damage had occurred. Now, what's interesting, although we saw these jumps in latency, we didn't actually see any increase in packet loss. Now, the black spikes across here are kind of the normal packet loss. We see that constantly. There's always things being dropped. But it's interesting that even though this latency jumps up, we didn't actually see a huge increase, really no increase in packet loss. Now, what this is suggesting is the internet works. The end. No, it suggests that the internet really rerouted the traffic successfully, so it kept that packet loss low. Similar thing we see with the C-LION cable. It was actually a smaller latency increase with this. It was only about 5 milliseconds after 2 a.m. on the 18th. Now, with this, again, we saw no spike, no increase in the packet loss itself. This was actually after the repair. As I mentioned, they were quite lucky. There was a repair ship in the area, so it was quite a quick repair time. So on the 28th, the C-LION cable repair had been reported as successful. Now, there were a few kind of echoes or continuous increase in the latency. We're actually unclear as to what is causing those. The cable was fixed as shown around the 5:30, and it kind of mirrors out and then finally gets back to what we see as normal performance. So to sum up, with this, in this instance, we saw about 20 to 30% of paths observed an increase in latency, but there was no concurrent increase in packet loss. Now, the internet did what it's designed to and routed around the damage. So that kind of gave us an idea of the packet and latency. We wanted to have a little deeper dive to see, so the initial, I can never say analysis, there you go, was based on ping, so end-to-end latency data. We wanted to have a little deeper look using traceroute analysis, and what we wanted to aim from this was to see exactly how the paths changed while the end-to-end connectivity was maintained. What we saw after having a look through this traceroute data is really there were 3 levels of resilience. There was inter-domain rerouting. Now, this is traffic routed through alternative ASs or IXPs, EGP. Can we stop with acronyms? BGP routing protocol. We saw intra-domain routing, so this was rerouting within networks over alternate paths, IGP, OSFP. OSPF, ISIS, and we also saw circuit-level rerouting. So this is rerouting along alternate circuit-level connections between routers, but using the same IP address. So it's these different layers that keep the internet resilient. So the conclusion of this is the internet works. The internet routed around the damage, and this resilience really depends on multiple levels of redundancy. We see redundancy between networks and also redundancy within networks. Now, one thing I will say, resilience is not guaranteed. There are some other instances. There was a landslide off the coast of Africa that wiped out pretty much all cables. We also see things like the power cut in Spain and Portugal that took out the major power network. Like, there are certain things that can't be planned for, but what is important is that we keep monitoring, we keep measuring, and we keep understanding what is happening and how it's working. So, as I say, the Baltic Sea, the internet did what it's supposed to. Now, I've mentioned RIPE Atlas. I'm going to just kind of run over. The RIPE NCC is really a neutral source of data, and we have so much internet measurement data thanks to RIPE Atlas. Now, in order to gain this visibility, we need people to host probes, host anchors. Coverage is real key. Now, I will say, with most of Western Europe, we are pretty well covered. However, that we're always seeking hosts who can help with probes and anchors. We have software probes now, which can just be downloaded. So with Europe, as you can see, we're pretty green in most of them. There are a few countries, Lithuania, Norway, Estonia, Ireland, Slovakia, Latvia, where we could use a few more anchors. So if you have presence in any of those countries, please come find me afterwards. I'll be happy to put you in touch with the right people. So yeah, I mean, that's really just a kind of summary of what we saw. Now, I will say the next slide has question and comments. If you have very technical questions, I will disappear into the back of the stage. But I will be able to point you in the right direction with people at the NCC who can answer any questions that you do have. So I realize I spoke very quickly through there, but I am doing my bit for the community and giving you an extra 15-minute coffee break, so you're all very welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that was informative. Thank you. Excellent. No, sit back down. Okay, that's okay.
Thank you, Alastair. The questions in the room? No?
Excellent.
Questions online? No?
Compliments online? No? Wow. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.